an Excel automation in UiPath by Intellipaat. So in today's era, everything is automated and people are moving towards an era where all of their tasks are being automated, and RPA is one of those technologies which is helping them do that thing, right? It helps in automation. So today we have decided to come up with a session on automation with the help of UiPath to show you how you can do web and Excel automation. But before we get into all of that, please subscribe to our channel to never miss an update from Intellipaat. Also guys, if you find this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. Now, let's talk about today's agenda. Today's agenda is fivefold and pretty straightforward. We'll be beginning off with a very brief introduction to what is RPA. Then we'll understand how RPA works in our second section. Once we have that in the bag, we'll talk about web and Excel automation. So in this section, we will be primarily discussing about the activities which are present in UiPath. So an activity in UiPath is basically a set of actions that you can do. So we'll be discussing what all things have been provided by UiPath for doing web and Excel automation in the third section. And once we get those things theoretically, we'll move on to our fourth section, which is our demo section, where we'll be trying out a couple of activities which we saw, and we'll be seeing how you can use RPA to perform different tasks. So that is about the agenda, guys. I hope that is very clear to you. So without wasting any further time, let's begin. So what is RPA? So RPA can be thought of as a technology where you automate process. So it is the process of automating operation with the robots without human interaction with the system. What does that mean? To understand this better, let's break it word by word, this term, so that we get a zest of what this term actually means. So this term is basically made up of three parts, right? So there is robotic, there is process, and there is automation. So what does robotic mean? Very intuitive, right? So anything which a robot does is termed as robotic. So if I have a robot which can lift a box and keep it down somewhere else, pour coffee to me, something like which is a robotic action, right? So the robot is doing. So that is what robotic is something that mimics human actions for doing some operation, right? Then process. Process is a set of sequential action which leads to a desired result. So let's say if I wanted to open my web browser, go to google.com, then search for, let's say, Tom Cruise, and then look at the pictures of Tom Cruise. So this is a step-by-step activity that I'm doing, right? So my end result is to look at the pictures of Tom Cruise. That I've defined a set of actions, which is I have to open my web browser, I have to go to google.com, I have to search for Tom Cruise and then click on images and then maybe find out what he looks like. So that is a set of sequential actions that we have defined. So that is process. Now, automation is anything which is done without the human interaction with the given system. So what it basically means is, let's imagine if there was a scenario where I could have made a program which on a click of a button could automatically initialize a robot inside my machine, right? So inside of your PC or my PC or whoever's system which is out there. So it's initialize a robot which automatically opens the web browser, goes to the google.com, searches for Tom Cruise and gives you out the result, right? So that is what the RPA basically means. So this is a set of sequential actions which has been performed by a robot without any human interaction. All it had required was a click on let's say go or start, whatever it is. So that is what basically RPA means. So it is an action which is being performed in a sequential manner without you interacting with the system. You just give it a logic, a set of actions that this has to be done, and your robot performs it. That is the basic idea behind RPA. Now, RPA is a technology. It's not a particular software. So there are different companies and different products for doing RPA, and we'll be discussing one of those today. So we'll be working with UiPath. Other than that, you have another two market leaders in Automation Anywhere and Blue Prism. So these tools are also used for performing RPA. So that is about that. So let's try to understand how does RPA work, right? It would be a little bit confusing as to how does it actually work. It is very simple and intuitive to understand how RPA works. So first and foremost that I mentioned was RPA is a technology, it's not a software. So it's the basic concept that you can initialize a robot which will lead to some actions that you have defined, right? So it can be implemented through various tools. Now, working of each of these tools might be different in some form or the other, but the entire operation or the basic principle behind everything remains the same. That is that you define a program, and that program is having set of sequential actions, and a robot is initialized and that performs all of those actions and leads to a desired result. Now, how it basically works is, you can think of it like this. So basically you have a software, let's say for UiPath, for instance, for right now, that you'll be seeing this later on in this session itself, so you'll get a better understanding of what I mean. So let's say if you run a software called as UiPath. In this UiPath, you basically define a set of instructions which have to be carried out one by one by one. Like, right, you can define in there that you want a browser to be open, and in that browser you want to go to Google Chrome. So you can define these set of actions, which is called as logic. So you basically define the logic about how things are moving. You can even record yourself doing all of these activities, and the software will pick it up from itself. Like, it will bring out the logic from whatever you were doing. It will pick it up based on your action. But basically you have to define a set of sequential actions, right? So you have defined that. Now once you have defined that and saved that program, and you run it, what this software does is it initializes a robot, or it initializes a bot which is behind the system. You cannot see it, it's inside of the system. This robot comes and looks at your program, and it sees one action at a time, right? So it sees that, okay, go to web browser. So it goes to web browser, then it sees the next step. Okay, now it says that I have to type this particular keyword, then it types that particular keyword, then it says what is the next instruction. So the way that you have defined your program, or the way that you have mentioned rules, the robot will follow those actions, follows those activities that you have defined, and perform all of those activities one by one by one. And once it is done, it is expected that whatever the action that you have defined, you have automated a task. So basically that is the basic idea behind how RPA works. Now a simple example of how things could run would be, or where it can be used in industry. So you'll be using, thinking, who wants to search for Tom Cruise? It's not just that. It does a lot of different things. When you think about it, you can use RPA to do any repetitive task across any industry, right? So basic goal of RPA is to eliminate the repetitive tasks, right? So what I mean by repetitive tasks, so in every industry, may it be, let's say, banks, or may it be telecommunication, or may it be IT and software, and different fields which are out there, or healthcare, or whatever. So you have a set of actions which is followed every single day, and it is a set of same actions that you have to perform with the slightest or minutest changes in the details, right? That you have to perform every day, and it takes human hours on doing these tasks when you could be doing something better. So basic goal of RPA is to eliminate those tasks which are taking your time into doing something which can be done by a robot, which is set of sequential actions which are you have to do again and again. Simple example would be, what you can see on your screen is, let's say if you are an invoice processing company, right? So invoice processing company is, basically you look at invoices, you extract the name, phone number, the cost which you spend, and different things like that. You pick out these valuable informations from these PDFs, and then you type it on Excel, right? Very simple task. You can hire a manual data entry guy to do it, or you can have an RPA system which can do it faster, so that you can employ your data entry people who are doing these things into doing some analytics on those things, or doing something which is more skillful. That way you utilize the manpower that you have much better. Another example would be, a lot of people generate reports, right? So you have to generate a report every single day based on this entries on an Excel sheet, and you have to mail it to your boss every day. So you can waste your time in doing that, or you can define RPA program once and schedule it so that every Monday it does that operation on its own, generates the report, sends it to your boss, everything is done, and all you have to do is just click of a button. And if you initialize it on an orchestrator, it will schedule it and do it automatically. You don't even have to bother to start it. It will work as per the schedule that you have defined, right? So that is the basic idea behind RPA. It's to eliminate the repetitive tasks that you have. Now let's come to the next slide, which says that, talking about different sectors, right? So as I mentioned, every sector in the world has some kind or the other kind of repetitive tasks in them. So it may be IT, healthcare, banking, insurance, telecommunication, manufacturing, anywhere. There's a set of sequential actions which you can eliminate, right? So in IT, I talked about report generation. In healthcare, maybe you have to you have some generated X number of reports, and you have to push it to your website so that people are able to view whatever their health status are. So you can automate that in the healthcare section. or you can use it to manipulate some kind of information somewhere based on predefined conditions. You can use that in healthcare as well. Talking about banking and insurance, you have a lot of forms coming from various different people for loans or for insurances. So what you can do is you can train your RPA program, or you can create an RPA program which goes through the forms which are provided by the people, right? So the form processing can be done using RPA in banking, insurance, and there are various different things that can be used for. I'm just giving you some simple examples of what it can do. So RPA has been adopted by all of these industries so far. Every industry is using it because it eliminates so much of repetitive tasks that it becomes much more efficient, and a robot does not make errors. So you eliminate the possibility of error as well, and you make the entire system more robust, more profitable, and that is something which is desirable by every single organization in the world. So that is the basic idea of what RPA is, how it is used, and where it is used. Now let's move on and talk about the topic on our hand, which is the web and Excel automation. Now this is very with respect to the UI path which we have. So for web and Excel automation, for web automation itself, you can have two different domains that you can go to. You can either use the browser activities which are inbuilt in the UI path, or you can use the recording version. I'll show you both of them so that you get a better sense of things, of how things are working. So let's quickly talk about that. So if you go to UI automation activities, it is a tab under RPA. When we move to the next section, I'll show you both, and in there you will find all of these things like browser, element, image, OCR, text, window. From there, you just have to choose browser. So under browser, you will find set of activities that you can do to automate tasks under browser. These tasks are very self-explanatory, but I'll just quickly run through it so that we have an rough idea of what is going on, so that when we move to the hands-on section, we won't be that much lost. Like, so as you can see, you have under browser section, you can find all sorts of commands which are required to perform tasks. Most of these commands are self-explanatory. So you have attach browser. Basically, if you want to attach a browser or open a new browser or perform different activities with respect to a browser, you use attach browser. You can close tabs. So if you have multiple tabs open, you can close the tab or the current tab that you're working on, and move back to the previous tab so that it becomes easy. You can go to back and go forward. So if you are moving across two pages and you want to go back, you want to move forward, RPA allows you to do that. You have go home and insert JS. So if you want to go to the home, just choose the home. If you want to insert a JavaScript, then you have to use insert JS. Now, other than that, you have open browser, you have refresh browser, and you have set web attribute. So if you want to set specified web attribute of any kind, you can use that as well, or you can refresh the browser, you can open the browser. Pretty straightforward. You can use these activities, and the other side of thing is you can use recording in the web recorder, and you can copy text, and you can do a lot of different things with respect to text. I'll be discussing that when we go to the hands-on section. The other side of things is the app integration side of things. So in app integration, you will find three elements. So there is CSV, Excel, and what we have not mentioned here is mail. There is three different things which is out there, and inside of all of these three, you'll find different kinds of activities. So UiPath basically is something which comes on top of the existing infrastructure. It does not eliminate anything inside of your infrastructure. It works with whatever you have. So if we are using CSV activities, then you have four activities in there: append to CSV, read CSV, and write CSV. Sorry, three activities, right? So let's jump on them real quickly. So append CSV is basically a command which is used to write to a CSV using a specified data table, and it will create a file if the file doesn't really exist at this point of time. So it will create a new file for you. And the next activity is read CSV. Pretty much say straightforward. We'll read all of the entries which are there in the CSV. So it will read the entire file if that is something that you require. Other than that, you have write CSV. Again, it's pretty straightforward. Whatever the specified data you have defined, it will write it to a CSV. The next one is Excel. So Excel has three different separate subcategories, and in these subcategories you can find a lot of different activities. So you have processing, you have table, and you have miscellaneous. We're not going to be mentioning all of that because we'll move on to the hands-on section and we'll see them automatically, so it's not that much required. So inside of processing, you have copy paste range. Pretty much straightforward. Copies an entire range including the values, formulas, table, format, whatever is defined inside of your Excel sheet, it will copy everything. So if you have some formulas working in your range in any particular tab, or if you have some coloring or cell formatting that you have done, it will copy all of that and it will paste it to the range. And then there is insert, delete columns. You can add or remove specified number of columns based on your requirements. Then you have insert delete rows, pretty much the same. You can do delete or add rows at a given certain position that you have defined. You can do that as well. Other than that, you have lookup range. So it basically searches a specified range for a certain value. So if you are, this is similar to what you do with respect to a VLOOKUP. So basically, if you are looking for some file, let's say if I'm looking for where is Tarun, right? So in an Excel sheet, you'll have a lot of information. Let's say if I want to find out which cell range does Tarun belong to. So if it's, I look up Tarun, and then in a specified range. So if I define A1 to A10 in these rows, I want to find out where is Tarun. If I find out where is Tarun, based on that, I can move ahead and find out different information with respect to Tarun. So that is the basic idea. So you can use that as well. And the next one is the table. So table has a lot of different activities again. So you can see close workbook, copy sheet, delete range, Excel application scope. So this is very important. So whenever you are using Excel activities inside of UiPath, you have to define it inside of Excel application scope, otherwise it will not work. So that is that. And then there is get cell color, get selected range, pretty much very textbook stuff. Basically anything that you can use, these are all of the activities in there. And finally you have more of them. So you have read column, read range, save workbook, select range, all of that. Very simple stuff. And now let's move on to the demo to find out different things which are out there, right? So let's move on to the demo section so that I can show you these things in real life. So this is my UiPath. Let me delete whatever we have in here so that it becomes easy for you. So let me tell you what we were talking about initially. So if you go to app integration, right, so you can find, as I told you, there will be three basic subdivisions: CSV, Excel, and mail. So once you open, let's say, Excel, you can see you have a processing tab, you have a table tab, and you have miscellaneous, which are these information that you can use. You can quickly click on table and you can find all of these things with respect to table, and you can quickly click on processing and you can find these processing related things like insert delete column, insert delete rows, invoke VBA, lookup range, remove duplicates in the range, execute some macro if you have defined autofill range, and different things like that, right? And similarly with respect to table also, you can do these things. And these are the different activities inside of the app integration. Now the other one which we talked about was the UI automation activities. In there we talked about browsers. You can see different things that you can do with respect to a browser. So this is that. And the other thing that I was telling you about was the recording. So if you go to recording, you can have web recording. And so you can basically do different things inside of your web browser, and you can have those things recorded, and you can bring up different values from there. So that is the basic idea. So let's try to do a small exercises so that we get a better zest of how things are working. So let me delete this. So let's start with browser first. So let's see what we can do with respect to a browser. So if I go to attach browser and bring it down here, and let's say if I want to open a browser, or let's open a browser, and let's say www.google.com. If I just type that, let's see what happens. If I run this file, let's see what happens. As you can see, it opened an Microsoft Edge, and that's where google.com opened, right? And now let's say if I wanted to do something more. So what I can do is I can have some activities which are with respect to these things we can do. So let's say if from here, what I can do is I can run a recording, which basically I'll use the web recording. I'll open my browser. So it opens this tab, and this tab has a lot of different things that you can do. So you can choose to record a bunch of activities that you're doing, and it will bring out a logic out of it, or you can copy some element, paste some elements. So you can do that as well. So let's quickly move to some simple things. Let's do some simple things. Let's click somewhere. Let's type into something. Type in here. I want to type the desired value. You can enter here. Let's say we want to type Tom Cruise. See, so it has done that. Now let's say that we were fine with it. So let's say I click once here, and then I click here, right? And it has opened something, right? So let's save this. Let's save what is going on. Okay. Now let's close this tab and see if my program is able to perform whatever we have defined so far. As you can see, my page has automatically been opened. It searched for Tom Cruise and it is doing everything, like it's going to that. So that is the basic idea behind this. So you can do all of these things, you can automate these tasks very simply. So what else you can do? Let's say if we are in here and let's say we are here, right, and we go for more recording, right, and let's say we are in here and we want to copy an element. Let's say we are copying texts. Let's say we want to copy this text. I want to indicate an anchor. Let's say this is my anchor, and let's save it. So whatever I am getting, I can paste it. So I'll show you later on. What you can do is you can get the information in from here and you can type it somewhere. So I'll show it in some different hands-on, so it'll become more easier for you to understand. So basically that is how you can use web recording. Let's move on and talk about the Excel activities also, so that we get a zest of how we can do that as well. So if we go to the app integration side of things, and you can see that you have different things with respect to the Excel that you can do. So let's try reading an Excel file which we have, right? So we have an Excel file ready here, which is the hello, which has some very basic information. Hi 1234 Intellipaat and Intellipaat 446, something like that. So what if I wanted to read this file and bring out the activities, right? So what if I wanted to do that? It's very simple to do that as well. So all you have to do is, first and foremost, working with any Excel sheet, what you need, what you must have is an Excel application scope. So this has to be brought into this sequence. Now you have to define the workbook wherever it is. So mine is stored at my D drive. I'm gonna go really quickly on that, and this is the hello text. So this is what I want to read. Now I can choose to write a specific cell. I can choose to read a specific cell as well. So let's say we want to read first. You can read a specific cell as well, but I want to work with the range, right? So I want to read an entire range. So reading a range is different from reading a cell in the aspect that when you read a cell, you will be reading one particular information. So let's say one particular box, but if I read the entire range, I can read the entire workbook from point A to point B. So let's see how read range works. So mind you, read range, if in here you have to define the range that you have to read, but for me I want to read the entire book, so you leave it as quotes, so no problems there. In the output data table, so you are working with a data table when you work with an Excel sheet, so you have to be careful while working around it. Not simple variables that you're using different things to do that. So basically what is going on. So let's quickly define it a variable. So let's say we'll call it D1, the data table which we'll get from here. So if you want to read this in a message box or whatever we have, so we need an output for a data table. So let's drop it right here, and for this you have to define an input, so whatever you are reading and whatever you want to convert. So we are converting our D1 data table, and we are converting it into a text string. So let's call it T1. Now what I want to do is I want to read whatever is out there in form of a message box. So let's go to a message box, and T1 was the variable, right? So let's select T1. Now if I run this, let's see what happens. So I've deleted all of my Tom Cruise information, and let's see what happens. So you can see it read through my file, hi Intellipaat 446 and whatever, right? Now let's play around a little bit, and in this let's say if I wanted to add something to that simple activity, right? So let's go to this and write a cell. Now we have to be a little careful here because we are writing to a particular cell. So what I mean by that is, let me show you. While writing a range or appending a range, it is easier, but when you are writing to a specific cell, so let's say I'm writing here into A3, so I'm writing A3 B3, so this is B 1 2 3 4 5, right? So A3. So if I'm writing something to this place, I have to be careful about what I write, right? So let's say if I'm writing to A3, if I'm writing to, let's say I want to put information into A3, and what I want to write is this is a new input. Okay, so if I do that, and then I repeat this thing again, so I read range again, and I output the data table. Now I'll rename this to a new data table, so I'll rename the output data table first one first here, we need to have an input 1. So let's call it K1, and we take this K1 and we output it to K2. Now let's have another message box to see if there was any change that we did. K2, right? So done that. Let's close our Excel sheet so that so now there is no A3 right in this one. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens if we run this again. Let's run it. So you can see the first activity is done, 1 2 3 4 4 5 6. There is an exception in here, so let's debug that. Let's put it as a variable. Oh, I think this is happening because we are not closing the workbook. So let's not do these things initially, and let's directly type to the sheet and then read it. Let's see what happens then. This is a new input. See what happens. As you can see, so that was the problem in there. So the basic problem with that one was that I had my Excel sheet open. So when it's open, I cannot work with it because I cannot edit when this is open, right? So I cannot edit this sheet when it is open. So that's the problem. So once we eliminated that, you can see this is a new input that I've put, and you can see those text are also coming out, right? But let's say if I change it and if I add something new, so that has been saved, right? So this is, let's say we call this that did not work because Excel was opened, and move this to A4, or let's say we'll call it, yeah, A4. Let's move it to A4. Now let's see what happens again. You can see the new one was also added. This did not work because Excel was open. So that is the basic idea upon what you can do. So you can have this thing customized as well. So you can have an input dialog box coming in, and you can take the activity from there and type information from there itself. So if I have an input dialog box, let's say on the top of this one, if I have an input, I have to have it outside of the Excel application scope. And you can have the dialog label and the dialog input text and everything. Input type should be text box, and output should be in the form of a variable. So I want to initialize a variable. Let's say if I have to create a new variable, let's call it variable 1. It should be a string. So output should be variable 1, right? So variable 1 is my result. So let's give it a dialog title. Please enter input here. Please input. So what I'm basically trying to do is I'm gonna take a new value, and then I'm gonna put that value in here as the variable 5. That's the fifth thing that I want. So variable 1 in here, I'll make it to A5, so that I can show you that we can do this thing dynamically as well. So we are putting it these information dynamically is the basic idea behind this one. So we have done that. So let's quickly jump into this one, and it will ask me for some information. So please press your input here, hello, or I'll just type dynamic input, right? So let's select OK very quickly, and you can see that has been embedded inside of my Excel sheet. So let me open the Excel sheet to show you, right? So this is the basic idea behind this one. Now I prepared one more thing before we finish. So this is a simple example. So I told you, right, you can have some information with respect to different things that you can do and bring out information from different places, right? So I've created this test. So let me explain what it does first, and then we'll see it in action. So let me open my main workflow. So it is also doing a combination of things. So it is doing that web. Let's say if I work for a stock trading company, right? So and if I wanted to find out how Tesla stocks were doing, so I defined this 2-3 days ago, I think. So if I just go to here and search for Google Finances, and in here, if I go here and search for TSLA, which is for Tesla, I can see this information right here, right? And you can see this one, when I created this, at that point of time it was at 4:20, closed 27th October as of time. Now this is closed of 16th November. You can see when I defined it was 27th October, now it is 409. So if I'm someone who constantly work with these information and I want this every single day, how do I get it? So if I have defined a program here which is basically opening this Tesla information. It is searching for Tesla on the Google page, then it is extracting those information, and then it is putting those information into a message box, right? That is the basic thing that it is doing. So what I wanted to do is output this. So if I have, let's say, a particular Excel sheet also, I can put this information. So let's see what happens when I run this right now. So it will open a web browser. It is opening Tesla. It has, as you can see, this information from here. It has opened, and this I can have this information stored in somewhere if I want to have, and I can have that make some report. So that is the basic idea of how UiPath is working. So with that, we have come to the end of this demo. Let's go back to our presentation and close for our final thoughts. So with that, we have come to the end of the demo. So let's move on to the next section, which is our learning path. So as you probably know, we at Intellipaat, we understand that an investment in knowledge always pays the best interest. That's why we provide a lot of free content in the form of blogs and YouTube tutorials. So we have long tutorials up to 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, 11 hours even, for different technologies that are out there. And we also provide a lot of free blogs for our avid readers. So we have a lot of people in our community who love reading. So for them, we have provided Intellipaat blogs where they can read up upon different technologies and start making a difference in their career. Also, if you are someone who wants to be enrolled in some kind of a guided activity where we have an instructor who clears your doubt as you go along, you need project works, and we provide all of that in our website as well. So if you are interested in buying a course, do check us out. Other than that, if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to us to never miss an update. So with that, we have come to the end of this session. So if you have any doubts with respect to this session or any other session that we have, the numbers are on your screen. Please call us for any information that you need. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.